Welcome to Twin Signals, Metrics at Work, with Elizabeth P. Morgan. Because metrics only matter when everyone agrees on what they mean.
In this episode of Twin Signals, Metrics at Work, I speak with Karsten Wolke, VP of Engineering at Oviva, one of Europe's fastest growing digital health providers. Karsten brings a clear perspective on how engineering metrics are being reshaped in the age of AI, where KPIs like lines of code and velocity simply don't hold up when AI can generate output at scale, shifting the focus decisively toward clean, lean code and business impact. We explore how Oviva aligns engineering closely with real-world results and what it takes to embed that thinking across cross-functional squads. We also go deep on Karsten's favorite metric, user engagement rate, and why it's one of the most powerful signals of whether you're actually delivering value. But as he explains, engagement is far from straightforward. Defining what active means and how often it occurs requires constant refinement. Looking ahead, Karsten outlines a future where, in an explosion of experimentation and output, production-grade quality becomes the defining metric, while engineering and business move ever closer together, united around measurable impact. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Metrics at Work. Thrilled to have Karsten Wolke with me today, VP Engineering at Oviva, one of Europe's fastest growing digital health providers. Hi, Karsten.
Hi, Elizabeth. Very happy to be here and discussing all things metrics.
You know, Karsten and I was thinking back on all our work together. And it's over the last 10, 15 years. I mean, you've led and measured engineering teams through so many changes, from the introduction of DORA metrics for deployment frequency to design thinking to agile development, program increment planning. And of course, more recently, the introduction of Copilot, Codex, Cursor, and Claude. I mean, what a ride in terms of metrics, performance, speed, and change.
Indeed, what a ride. Yeah. Next to technologies and way of working that evolve in engineering, also related metrics evolve and have changed over time and will keep going, to be honest. Always exciting times, and let's see also what comes next.
Yeah, that's why we're here. We try and see what comes next. Karsten, for our listeners today, can you briefly describe Oviva, your engineering organization, and how metrics shape the way you operate every day?
Happy to do so. I try to keep it briefly. Oviva is a leading European virtual clinic for chronic health conditions. Supported already more than 1 million patients. It's a personalized coaching platform for patients. We help them to change their lifestyles and improve health outcomes. We're operating in UK, Switzerland, and Germany. Integrated with healthcare systems, insurers. The company is more than 12 years old, meanwhile, fast growing. And we just closed also a Series D funding to grow even faster.
Congratulations. And how about the product and engineering organization you're leading there at Oviva?
Also happy to share a few insights on that and how we are organized. We have more than 100 employees in product and engineering and cross-functional squads we operate. We use the Spotify terminology and model behind there. So every squad has all the stuff and skills to really act autonomously. What that means is they have, for example, mobile engineers, front-end, back-end engineers, product managers, designers, but also some of them have data scientists, analysts in there to really act autonomously and take decisions by themselves.
And how are you all working inside or how are your squads working and operating with metrics?
Metrics are really closely related to our company values, which are patient first. We empower our teams and we make it happen. So what that means, measure, for example, health metrics like weight loss, but measure also success on metrics like operational costs per patient or patient retention, net promoter score. Every squad has a clear goal about what success means and have also clear metrics how to measure progress on that. So that enables them to take decisions and prioritize their backlog. all data sits within our data warehouse. So engineers have dedicated metrics, have dashboards, and they also report on a sprint base against those.
It sounds too good to be true. An engineering organization that's focused on business impact, understands business impact, self-serving, access to all the metrics they need to make sure they're delivering value. Are there any wrinkles in the setup?
Of course, there's always the two sides of the coin. As you can imagine, if you have data, I think we all have in our organizations, not just at Oviva, I think that's also at other places. So it's a bit more really also make sure we focus on the right. So also part of that one is that we align regularly and review on the matrix that really needs attentions, and also in the reporting it needs focus. So it's an ongoing exercise also, not the business matrix, that's quite stable, but for example, engineering excellence ones like, do we have at the moment issues with escape defects in there, or do we have reliability topics in there, or whatever. So that's a moving target, what needs attention and focus. And once this is addressed, whatever the topic is, then often they are in ship shape, then we can ignore them and others get more attention.
So the challenge you're saying is that the volume of dashboards and sheets and the volume of metrics from the engineering excellence side of the house is quite overwhelming. So it's a question of focus.
Exactly. The same also on the business side. It's also that there is a lot of things and sometimes fine tuning. But a majority of, let's say, of those that get short notice attention is more on the engineering excellence side.
So when you're talking about focus on metrics, thinking about yourself, I mean, which engineering metrics do you personally depend on most?
First of all, I have to say there is no single one, but that would be fantastic all in our life if there would be just one topic to focus on. We all dream about that, but the life is a bit more complex. So I have to say it's also in engineering. There is no single one that tells you everything is in ship shape and green. But logically, I would say you can split them into dimensions. Engineering, I would say there's the business impact that we have, and either immediate falls into that cluster or engineering excellence.
Mm-hmm.
Business, for example, is user engagement, patient retention, weight loss, operational costs, net promoter score, such things. Engineering excellence, on the other side, system reliability, escape defects, also that are those ones that made it to production, the bugs, which we can't avoid, or AI usage, for example.
So just thinking about the business impact metrics, I mean, the first one you mentioned, I guess top of mind for you is user engagement rate, right? So how are you actually measuring that, Karsten? What is your metric there?
At the end, it's quite simple. We look on the daily active users divided by the total user base.
So DAO divided by MAU, right? Daily active users divided by monthly active users. And why is that so important?
First of all, I personally also as well, strongly believe and you have to deliver value to the end users. And that means at the end, your end users use your products. As simple as that. And therefore, daily active user depends, of course, a bit on your product, or what you have and the business where you are, if it's daily, monthly, weekly, whatever. But if it's get used, at the end, you deliver value, and there you can then also measure success. The difficulties, let's say, is with engagement a bit more the complexity behind what means really engage. Yeah? If you look a bit on other metrics, like, let's say, finance, volume related, like revenue that we made in a month, it's quite clear what that is. Usually, anyway, have that in the books. It's well defined, less debatable what that is. If you talk about engagement, that gets a bit more difficult. If you look, for example, to an application, if it's a mobile app or web application, the pure login obviously does not deliver value. So what at the end is really that's what delivers value. So you have to define probably the key features, those ones that are regularly used. Once a user is using those ones, that this drives and defines engagement. And that's also then an ongoing exercise. You need to evaluate over that and fine-tune this over time. The same as I said, depending on your business, you also need to define whether it's on the what is the frequency? Let's call it that way. If you do it on a daily basis, monthly basis, weekly basis, etc.
Yeah, so I guess, first of all, daily active users divided by monthly active users is a pretty simple concept. The excitement comes from what do we mean by active? Because it's a comparatively fuzzy thing. I mean, we have other people in this series that talk about the unexpected complexities with identifying and agreeing on what revenue is. But nonetheless, it's certainly a broader and less precise concept, engagement. So you need to be very careful about what constitutes an active user, not just a login. And then you're also saying that there's this issue of timing. So the timing is obviously something that's important for your own application. You know, if people get value by logging in once a quarter, once a month, once a year, high value from one instance, or high value, most value from every day. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what does good look like?
It's a good question. I would say engagement you have to link to probably features that drives at the end retention. What keeps your users? Yeah. In those months, for example, what we relate to that. And then the second question is time, as I said. So in health tracking, for example, or health tracking app, I would say exactly daily usage and exactly health tracking is certain things that keeps people with you. Of course, you have to do much more than just tracking, but it's a key feature for sure. And if you look on the other side on the, let's say, hotel booking app, you can't expect daily usage by definition. So probably it's a monthly, but it's also booking probably related, because at the end, changing an email address in your profile, whatever, it doesn't drive engagement. Yeah. So really have to look also what on that this individual apps really drives long-term retention, and then combine it with a proper time frame.
Karsten, when we spoke earlier, of course, you've been riding the vanguard of AI and leading your organization through these exciting times of AI programming. How are you looking at AI usage?
Also there, first of all, nowadays it's mandatory in every engineer's toolkit. I would not even say engineer. I think it goes across business units, but also there, tools evolve, new things pop up. So as you mentioned, now we had Copilot, we had Cursor, we have Claude. They have all different, let's say, also usage metrics and reportings behind. So there's no one single metric. What we really look for is, and also review and track, is regular use of that. So that, for example, means daily usage, token users, interaction frequency. What we really want to see that our workforce utilizes it, adopts it, get used to it. And then it's, of course, as with many other topics, you have to get used and train on that. Training comes on the go by day-to-day working. But we really want to see that everyone in the organization is using it.
So we've talked about the metrics that are important for you. What about the metrics you're not really paying attention to? What metrics are you ignoring?
That changes also over time, and in particular in the era of AI, many things we have used in the past are now really irrelevant. At the end, we focus on, or they focused, let's say, which become irrelevant, more on output, and nowadays we look more on outcome. So let me give you a few examples. For example, ounce of code, it was anyway weak before, but now absolutely meaningless. With AI, you can generate 1,000 lines of code instantly. Velocity story points was decades we were working with that, but AI accelerates simple tasks, but has still challenges here and there with complex reasoning. So velocity metrics are inconsistent and unreliable. Pull request cycle time, AI can open pull requests faster than humans can even review them. Code test coverage, also a very known metric in the past. AI can easily generate whole test suites, making, let's say, coverage absolutely trivial. Now, the counter question, if we can't use them anymore, what to use instead? Let me give you their, let's say, proposals or things I would do. Focus completely from output to outcome. What that means.
So Karsten, these are, sorry, just to be clear, this is, you're transitioning your organization now from these former, human productivity metrics to a new way of looking at productivity or excellence metrics that is entirely focused on outcome, because the output, AI has created a chaos in the output metric scenario.
I would not say chaos. It's, as I said, it's a toolbox. But with AI, we can very quickly generate a lot of content, a lot of code, a lot of features. We can generate quickly. So means also release cycles, everything will speed up, and we will see short release cycles, new features in a shorter time. So means if we can generate more output, so probably it's wise to focus more on outcome. And what that means, instead of lines of code, look also, for example, code churn or deletion. That sounds weird, but exactly goes in that direction. If you can quickly generate more and more features, so it's more and more important that we also keep our products clean, easy to understand, avoid and remove complexity. So therefore, have a close eye on that and measure exactly what moved the needle and remove those things that just adds complexity. Instead of lead time, what is it? There was so far always the time between from the idea to production. Since we can generate quickly, it's more important now to look on reliability. Also, for example, mean time to recover or mean time to detect issues. End users will value more at the end that the stuff or products are resilient, and speed to fix issues, etc., becomes more important than another new feature. Commit frequency, as I said, quickly can generate the stuff. So it's more important that humans focus on review depth and breadth. So really have the human oversight is the key future or the new goal to focus on. And instead of story points, which is again just effort and output that we measure, look on business outcome. And there we are back to the business matrix, focus on that and what really moves the needle.
I mean, it's pretty wild to be looking at code churn or code deletion as a metric to follow. Have you developed ways to do that, or are there signals that you look at to achieve this already?
Yeah, there are simple things we have done also in the past. It's not something you need to do in the era of AI, but if you have good usage data, usage tracking of features, we all know that as more features you have, as more complex products gets in the maintenance, but also from the end user perspective. So if you at the end really know what features don't get used, remove them. And at the end, your end users will value that. And it gets a simpler usage. You have less support questions, etc., on that. So therefore, we know what are your killer features or top features. And this you know, by the way, as well. And focus on that and improve those.
And then you also mentioned review depth and breadth, that human oversight is what really counts. So are there techniques you're using or introducing to measure human oversight?
We have certain things in place, starting from technical designs. What's all about specification at the end. If you look a bit what, let's say, code reviews and such things have done in the past, we're looking on naming conventions, on standards, on throughput, scalability, security. Majority of that stuff can be covered by agents. That's quite straightforward. Whether this overall fits to our platform strategy, at the end, architecturally, how everything builds together, how that really works, this oversight is still needed. And there, exactly the humans, the engineers should focus on and really know how the platform is really built and how it fits all together, and how it gets further evolved.
So people are eye on business impact, eye on simplification of code, eye on overall architecture as the baseline for quality and resilience. Yeah. Okay. So does this mean that the senior leadership have also agreed and changed their focus?
At the end, it's a transition. Yeah, I think everyone at the end appreciates if you focus more on outcomes. So we also experience that here and there. Again, the question on output and productivity. Overall, really, constantly work on and focus on outcome. We, for example, have followed the OKR framework, have quoting plans, and all it's about at the end the outcomes with the business matrix where we want to move the needle. For example, we have squads that focus on efficiency, and there a typical metric is return on investment. Yeah, so engineering effort against the reduced operational cost per patient. And it gets highly appreciated. So at the end, if you really say that's the outcome that you will achieve, then it's not anymore a discussion about productivity. But you have to come up, of course, also with a valuable or outcome.
Yeah, but it's impressive.
Convince then everyone that it's worth to do the investment. So it's a learning curve for both sides, but at the end, it's highly appreciated.
I guess also people are seeing that ROI, and they're also understanding that you're delivering a lot more in terms of outcome than you used to, maybe 2-3 years ago because of these additional tools.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's my pleasure to share that Twin Signals Metrics at Work is sponsored by HelloTwin.ai, the semantic operating system for SMBs. Hello Twin. Stop managing agents. Start managing outcomes. Launching June 24, 2026. Could you share a moment when a metric revealed an unexpected insight that led to a meaningful improvement or change in the way you work?
Yes, there are multiple, and I have also multiple years of experience meanwhile. But let me take one that's also easy usually to understand because also other companies have worked that way. Let's look on release trains and continuous integration, continuous delivery, CI/CD, the terms often used for that. So the interesting, or let's say the insight is that fixed deadlines increase substantially likelihood to ship lower quality and ship defects. And looking backwards, I mean now really 10 years overall, which is sometimes quite long in engineering, on the other side also quite short, but we started going to service-oriented architecture. Sometimes the buzzword microservices popped also up. We did that really to ensure scalability of the product, because it's much more easier to make these ones scaling, and also scalability of the organization, because different teams are responsible for different services. Then we introduced this CI/CD, because independent services could then also be deployed independently. So we had a faster time to market. So that were the key drivers for these initiatives. The interesting side effect that we saw is that the quality heavily improved. So we saw more than or less than 50% bugs, so far better quality when the stuff moved to production. Combined even with a faster time to market overall compared to release time train concept. And the interesting part, first of all, that was quite insightful. If you now looked a bit deeper into for the reason why, at the end, it became then also quite clear it's the teams have a clear ownership, feel responsible, deliver when they are ready, and that overall ends up in a better quality. But that was a quite insightful experience. The nice positive side effect.
So the goal for moving away from release trains and to CI/CD was really to be faster.
To be fast.
And the upshot was that because engineers were calling the shots on when their features were released, they actually had a step up in ownership and the long-term benefit, or the immediate and proven benefit is better quality, substantially better quality.
Absolutely. We made it from monolith, which is a large piece of software to deploy, so release train. We made it scalable and split it into smaller pieces, then faster time to make it and better quality. So win-win on all dimensions.
So it's cool. So Karsten, you're the leader of the engineering organization, so obviously you love metrics, right? But how do you find that engineers in your team react to metrics? Do they care about them? Do they obsess about them? Do they resist them? Do they try to ignore them? What's your take on the way that your engineers perceive metrics?
I'm an engineer myself, and honestly, I love, as you said, I love metrics, but also what I experience. And overall, it's a change of the mindset. Yeah, if you look a bit on the back, old world, or some years ago, PMs pushed for metrics, certain goals, set deadlines. Engineers felt a bit measured with deadline-driven development, and with, let's say, the nowadays way of working, when we have clear metrics, it all becomes a rational discussion. So we talk about exactly what can move the needle, what's the hypothesis, what's the metric that we want to change. Everyone can contribute to it, and that makes every engineer be part of the decision making. And everyone at the end appreciates that, because everyone can come up with initiatives. It becomes a rational discussion about what really moves the needle. What is the return of investment of the different initiatives, for example? And then at the end, those make it to the next cycle or on the roadmap, on the top list of the roadmap, and we tackle. So it's a mind shift in the organization, but therefore you have to really make sure that your teams have a clear mission. You have clear success metrics. They are well understood by the whole team. Then you really move up, and it gets highly appreciated.
Yeah. I mean, it's really just the overarching theme, and again in this discussion, is really autonomy and empowered teams. And we all want to have them. We all read so much about it, but it really seems that you're making great strides toward this by really aligning business impact with this squad structure, with this top-down focus on the business impact of the engineering organization. It's very impressive. So, assuming all engineers are rational, all engineers love metrics that they own, are there one or two metrics you wish every engineer truly understood at a deeper level?
Yes, obviously, the business also the engineering excellence matrix by nature, they know what that is. Yeah. So if you say the performance of a backend service, how long it takes until the service responds, the amount of bugs, etc., that's quite well known. But for engineers, you really have to understand the business matrix, and not just what they mean, also at the end, what drives them, what is the underlying, let's say, initiatives that really can move the needle. To really understand that, you really need to understand exactly what the business is doing. So therefore, it ends up that engineers have to get closer to the business. You have to understand really what the business is doing, not just act as an order taker. So it's not just taking requirements. And therefore, for example, what we're also doing, we have shadowing sessions where our engineers shadow what our healthcare professionals is doing, or the business unit on, for example, the finance side are doing. We have quarterly workshops with the markets, with the business, to really make sure each other from all sides, let's say it's not both, but it's from all dimensions, the different experts, we understand what the others are doing and share knowledge and have a deeper understanding also what these experts are doing.
So your engineers are going to health centers. They're sitting alongside patients. They're talking with finance, admin people inside your customer organizations.
Indeed. Most of the stuff, what we are doing is virtual. So it's online consultation of what exactly we are doing. Shadowing, we have workshops, in-person workshops, etc. So we really invest heavily really to have this knowledge exchange happening.
Do they like it?
There is, of course, also their learning curve. Once they experience the positive effects, they of course love that, yeah. But you also have to look at how the one or other has grown and has experienced it over the years. The shift towards getting closer to the business, we see them ongoing. Of course, we all know that 20 years ago, an engineering way of working is different than today. It's also for the one or other, it's a more challenge than for the other. So it's all about understanding the business, have passion for that, understanding willingness. A lot of soft skills become far more important today compared to years ago.
Yeah. It's the builder mentality, right? So again, it's this ownership and this enthusiasm about the outcome and about the innovation.
Therefore, also a good example is always don't accept order taking, and means it doesn't mean that you shouldn't trust what a requester is coming to you, but you always, as an engineer, I expect that from my organization, ask the reason why, because probably you as an engineer have even a better solution to address the underlying issue.
Mhm.
For example, a good example is always also well understandable. If you look how call centers have worked in the past, and sometimes even doctors today, if you go to your GP, you probably have to make an appointment. You have to call them to change your appointment. But if you would ask the GP or whatever how I can improve it, probably would ask for a chatbot, that the chatbot can do that. But the far better solution is, say, instead of having somebody calling, just send them a link where you can rebook. Because it's a far better user experience. You can look it, you can do it asynchronous 24/7. You can also check in between in your own calendar. You have it probably directly digitalized. It's a far better user experience. But don't expect that the human who does something proposes something better than just the automation of the work that the person is doing. So to really think out of the box, and we call it always build a car instead of just a faster horse. You need to have the different skills and experts in the conversation, and you really need to understand what's the underlying issue that we have and what we want to solve. And then you come with exactly such solutions.
So in this world of unified understanding of value, I'm sure there are still disagreements, right? So when there are disagreements within your teams about what a metric means, how do you, and I guess these are probably these business success, business outcome metrics, how do you resolve that disagreement?
First of all, disagreement is good. Yeah. I like that, because it can't be. If everything is in harmony and everything doesn't get challenged, then probably you have other issues. So first of all, challenges, discussions, exactly are the right things, because you look for the best solution for improvement. Back to the matrix. Every metric has a clear owner, and this owner is also responsible for the definition and the evolution. You could debate about what is a key feature, then certain things gets in, others gets removed. What is the time frame? Are we talking about daily? Was it a weekly thing we should look on? Those things are debatable, but at the end, the owner is the person who does the last call in case of questions, and is then of course also responsible for it.
So for every business success metric, there's one person in the squad that has the last call on what is the measurement, or what is the value that will be measured to reflect the general outcome, or to accurately represent the outcome, and to be watching and changing that metric when it needs to change.
Yeah, I would say not in every squad. Sometimes it's also on the business side, but there's one owner in the organization. Exactly.
Cool. So looking ahead, okay, 2 quarters, 1 quarter, 2 years, 1 week. I don't know how far ahead, but which engineering metrics do you think are going to become more and more important, and why?
One side is a tough question. Also, of course, I have a vision. I wouldn't call it a vision, but I, of course, also foresee certain things. Let's don't look 5 years ahead. I think no one of us can really do that, and where we end up there.
How far ahead are you prepared to look, Karsten?
I always look, try to do it as long as possible, as far as possible. What I see clearly is AI changed the game already and will keep going. I think we are just at the start. What that all will give to us. At the end, massive output, rapid experimentation is really easy. So the business impact becomes the key dimension. Also, what we talked about, the outcomes. That shifts really the question, what really moves the needle? This is the key question, but it will always stay. Where to focus on, what to do. And as I also said, in parallel, we will see that since we can generate a lot of stuff, complexity explodes. Not just in software, that will be across the business. And in industries, you will see that. So therefore, quality and reliability matters more than ever. Because very easily you can probably create another clone of something. But at the end, we'll value that stuff has to work. And reliable has to work. Furthermore, as we also spoke already about, that the gap between business and engineering will further shrink. We'll see far shorter recycles. And at the end, you can also say that we need to have very tight linkage between really measurable impact on certain initiatives and remove really features and complexity out of our products that didn't make it. So we need the discipline, and probably by default also make sure that stuff that didn't, we had the hypothesis that it moved the needle, at the end, for some reasons it didn't work out. Really make sure that this also gets removed again. And not that for software, that applies also to other industries.
That's exciting. So you're talking about this shrinking the gap, the continuing to reduce this gap between business and engineering. With shorter times to market for new initiatives, which have to be measured so that anything that's unnecessary, anything that's complex can be removed.
In short, you can just say it, future metrics will focus exactly on business impact, outcome, and production grade quality. These are the two things.
Bravo. Thank you so as simple as that, Karsten. So thank you so much. Great talking with you today. Really very clear to me that empowered engineering teams and empowered cross-functional squads are happening at scale and supporting very fast-moving businesses in very fast-growing businesses in very fast-moving industries.
Thank you, Liz. Really enjoyed that. It was a pleasure to talk about that. Thank you.
Make it happen. Okay.
Thanks for listening to Twin Signals, Metrics at Work. See you next episode.